have put that on. We should not have put that on. And yeah, what a wonderful way to welcome this podcast, Safari podcast. So yeah, we probably need to feedback from last time, and next time probably need to get better at introducing ourselves. I am co-editor Andrew Cole, Sportscast Safari, joined by co-editor Luke Jackson, for those that don't know us.
Oh, hey, I thought we were doing this more formally. My name is Luke Aaron Jackson.
Nah, you can be formal. I'm still going to be It's a Friday, man. It's a Friday.
It is a Friday.
Ain't no need for formality.
It kind of feels like tomorrow is Friday, but because we're all messed up again this week.
Well, yeah, speaking of messed up,
yeah,
I think for those on audio only, it's probably going to be a little bit tricky. You're not going to get it, but we're wearing matching jumpers and it's a bit awkward. At least they're our matching jumpers, but still, it's a bit awkward.
We're in uniform. It's fine. Don't worry. So, could be worse. We could be wearing name badges as well or something. That could be even worse.
Can we get one of those, those old American style, the embroidered ones, like Chuck or Fred or something on there?
Yeah.
Anyway.
But they're really uncomfortable shirts.
Yes.
Like those shirts, like the short sleeve kind of shirty things are a bit dull.
So funny story. I can't remember where I was. It was in the UK. Speaking of that real American workwear, I reckon it was somewhere in London, somewhere in deepest depths of hipster London, as you would expect. And there was not just a vintage shop. There was a shop specializing in selling vintage American workwear. And it was this shop, and it was full of like workshop mechanic shirts with names. It was
all like Dickies and Wrangler and stuff.
Yeah. That was all that had. Whole shop. Anyway.
Those shirts probably outlast most people, I reckon.
I think so. Yeah. Well, that's why they're still for sale today, I guess. So, and I mean, these, if you want to look like us, these sweaters are available in the Sportscast Safari shop. But that's not why we wore them. That's of course not why we wore them.
Well, I was wearing them because I was out doing magazine stuff today, which was exciting.
This is a good way of saying that issue 4 is in existence. Printed, bound, stapled, delivered, in stock. Tell us about it, Luke.
Well, I'm just exhausted from the whole thing, really. But it's all good. We had a bit of a deadline change with the magazine.
Damn you, COVID.
Damn you, COVID. So issue 4 is going out to all the entrants in the Adelaide Rally because we have, I think we've said before, we're sponsoring a stage in the rally. And part of that is we're giving the magazine out to everyone, which is really, really cool because hopefully it'll get it into the hands of some obvious car people who might not have heard about it or seen about it before. Because we're not exactly advertising in bus shelters. And so, with COVID, basically the rally's moved to all online based driver's briefing, documentation and everything like that. So usual things for these type of events is everyone heads up to the Arca bar, the good old grab a granny, and
you sounded so Aussie then.
Yeah, grab. Oh, I put it on. By a Maggie boy, and
sweepy boy,
and we, usually all the comp and main tour guys end up there. A day or two before the event, isn't it, or the night before? Night before the event. And usually the week of the event, all the dealerships have their briefing events as well. So there's usually big packets of people. And so we were banking on that when we were doing all our timelines with the magazine and everything. And then before you know it, Tim called us up and said, "Oh, guys, you're like week and a half. We got to get the magazine." And we're like, So basically, poor Ivor. I feel sorry for him this weekend.
Ivor Spinellis, the organizer.
He's on the ground of the rally this year, organizing the majority of it, and he's putting together 404 boxes full of information, documentation, goodies, sponsors things, hats, stickers, Sportscast Safari magazines. So it was pretty much and then from next week the competitors can go pick them up. So we were pushed for time, which were amazingly amazingly we got it all together and got it out, which is cool.
I think this whole COVID thing there's going to be a lot of stuff that we have been forced to adapt and change to, and we're just not going to go back to the old way. Like I did a track day a few weeks ago, and all the briefing was online. And do you remember the old days of going to a track day and you'd have to get there an hour early to stand in the wind and listen to a driver's briefing, which you've heard 900 times before, and just, man, it was so tedious, and everyone's on their phone and no one really cares, and it's just so tedious. And I did this track day, MSV at Snetterton, and it was actually really good. The MSV Motorsport Visionary and operator of tracks in the UK. They've got 6 or 7 sort of tracks, but they've got this portal where you have to log on in the 24 hours prior to the event, so basically the night before, and then you go through, and it's a tiered sort of stage online briefing, and they time to make sure that you've looked at every step and stage, and it was just such a good, clear, easy, fast way of doing it, and I can't see a return to the old school drivers briefings afterwards. Well,
I mean, I've like day jobs for me in IT, so there's quite a lot of training that's done online for us, and that training is, I guess, done in a similar fashion where they essentially force you through the steps. You can't skip them as much as you try sometimes.
There are ways.
Sometimes you can, but
we've found a way around it.
What you do? But you did do the briefing. You took little.
So I was on my own. See, when you're in an office and you've got those online training things, what you do is you get, if you've got 4 or 5 people, you get one person to take one for the team and write down the correct answers, and then the next person goes through and goes A, B, D, E, and you can get through in about a minute. So anyway, did say that.
Didn't hear that from Andrew. I'm actually going to, because the box that I opened that had some in, I gave to Ivor because when I rocked up, he said I needed more than 800. So, because there was a few more competitors. So
he has them. He's the first man in the world to have these magazines. I don't even.
Let me think. Yeah, Ivor would have been the first person outside of me getting them. I'm sure a few of the boys, by the sounds of it, at Open Book Howden, would have had a few. There's a couple of car nuts there. So there was a couple of interesting cars. There was a MX-5 with some wheels and stuff like that, like an NB that was in the car park, in the workers' car park and stuff. So there's a couple of car guys there.
Because this is always the way now. So we thought we'd do this live on the podcast. I've not actually seen the magazine before, because how it basically happens is it's printed in Adelaide in South Australia. I'm obviously here in Cambridge in the UK, and this happens every bloody time that everyone back home gets the magazine and reads it and has read it before I even see it. And then my express copy sort of turns up in the post about a week later, and I'm all excited about it, going, wow, have you seen this? And by this point, it's old news. Everyone has seen it by now. So
everyone's going, when's the next issue?
When's the next issue? Well, I haven't even seen this issue yet. Come on, guys. So anyway.
Actually, now, if you are on audio, and even video, you can't even smell a vision or smell a sound would be good, because the smell of a freshly printed box of magazines is amazing.
It is. We're not weird.
Not weird.
The ruffled sound of the pages through your hands. Oh, look at that. Look at that.
I'm really happy with how it turned out, actually.
So we have on the cover Ferrari F40 Michelotto GT.
Yeah.
Last minute choice.
Choice. Good one. There's some really cool things. I mean, one of the big things that I think really helped us through, which was really, really good, is the guys that advertised with us in terms of getting information back to us and getting approvals back to us, because we didn't really leave much time for them, which was hard.
Especially shout out to John at Driven Motorsport.
Yeah, poor John. Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. He had his graphic designer working to a deadline, and then we had to kind of email him and be those guys and said, the deadline's now kind of 10 days shorter or 12 days shorter than it was. And a bit like,
sorry.
To be fair, to his credit, he's like, I've given our designer a date. I don't know. And the designer, I don't know who the designer was, but did manage to turn that around and get it.
Shout out to them. Thank you.
Very well done.
Because we've got some really cool people supporting us in this issue, which is really cool. We've got Adelaide Carl von Sanden who's got Adelaide Tarmac Pace Notes now, which is pretty cool. So he's advertised with us. We've got Beck's Bakehouse, Port Noarlunga, Dan Beck, who's another Tarmac rally nutter, who supported us, which is really cool. Yeah, it was actually interesting. I guess I never really understood about Cars on the Coast. I knew that, Dan had been supportive of it, obviously, because his business, Beck's Bakehouse at Port Noarlunga, is right there. But I guess having a business like that, it's really interesting to hear Dan speak about the importance of community and bring people together, which is, I think, something sometimes you forget about with things like that. And I guess that happens more with food businesses than anything else. But yeah, just like talking about him wanting to kind of get people in, and even seems to be so passionate about Port Noarlunga as well, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's a lovely part of the world. It's a lovely part of Adelaide, but it's a bit, it's a bit off the beaten track as such for most people.
I think it's one of those places that if you don't live near it, it's not really a destination you think about. And I guess that's what Dan's trying to change, is trying to get more people. And I must admit, just being perfectly honest, I've not spent a lot of time at Port Noarlunga before. And then, once Dan came on board and we were kind of chatting to him, and I did some research into Port Noarlunga, and I discovered there's a massive reef off Port Noarlunga, which is great for snorkeling. And I left that thinking, like, I need to go there. That's really cool. And then actually, I found the deep darks of the web. I found this British expat forum about expat Brits living in Adelaide,
right.
And they were giving reviews of Port Noarlunga, and they were sort of saying how they'd moved from sort of grey and dreary England, and they'd moved to Port Noarlunga, and they've got a beach for snorkeling in the hills and like this, and cafes and restaurants, and it's just the best place in the world, and they never want to go back. And I was like, actually, that's all very valid points.
Yeah. So that was really cool to see, and have him on board, which is really cool. I've always loved Dan's cars, and I've been to Cars on Coast a couple of times, and it's always been a good, fun cars and coffee event. And I guess having a bakery there is also pretty handy as well.
Yeah.
And then we've got
the next one.
Sorry,
need to get down to the next one.
Yeah, we do. I've actually got Dan said he wants some more magazines down at the shop, which is cool. Which we really appreciate, Dan. Putting them out there, which is awesome. And then the other ones we've got in there is we've got Blackbird RT, which is pretty cool. They've come on board. They're doing the Spirit Tour. The owners of the business are doing the Spirit Tour for that, which is pretty cool. And the other one we've got, which is he's been a great supporter of us for a little while, is Adelaide Hills Toyota. So
day one.
From day one.
Tom was a good supporter back in the Burger Meat days of
he was
running that event. He was always the title sponsor for that. So
great. Well, that was when we first kind of went, when you came up with the idea of doing a poster and things like that, and we're like, how are we going to pay to get a poster printed? How are we going to pay to get stickers printed?
Yeah,
things cost money. And then it was Tom came to the party for that, which is pretty cool. And yeah, so he's got a beautiful ad on the back cover that has got the Supra and the new GR Yaris, which looks pretty sweet.
I really want to go in that GR Yaris. I'm just on the wrong side of the world for Tom.
You are. But apparently Tom's getting one next month, isn't he? Or this month?
Yeah.
November. Next month.
I think you can. He's already said you can go have a go in it. So yeah. I got to say, actually, shout out to Adelaide Hills Toyota for those in South Australia. We have a lot of car dealer mates, so this is obviously I'm not saying this, but there are some car dealers out there, But the guys up at AHT at Adelaide Hills are not like that at all. They are real, honest, good country folk who like cool cars, and I know my folks have bought a couple of cars off them, and they're always great. So would recommend. And not just because they support us. Would recommend even if they didn't.
Would recommend it even if they don't support us. Absolutely. I mean, again, same thing. I've had lots of friends who have bought cars from there. I know a couple of the guys that work there as well. And I mean, even Tom himself is just a passionate car nut who loves people, and just happens to be the business of selling cars.
So funny story. Can I tell a quick story about Tom? And this is his trust in and
is this you back in the day, little Andrew?
Yeah. No.
So
when I've known Tom and the Gilbert family for a long time, and I reckon I was 16 or 17, and so they've been motor dealers, like car dealers in Mount Barker in the area since the 1920s. Like their family business goes right back. And And they have, it's very cool. They don't get it out that often. Tom needs to, but Tom does get it out. They've got a 1928 Buick that they actually sold new in 1928. And it's sort of, it's in quite original condition. It was passed around through a few owners in the LA Hills, and they tracked it down and bought it back in the 90s, I reckon. They've had this Buick for a long time, and it's kind of in the family collection. And Tom, I remember chucked me the keys once, and we went for a drive, and he let me drive it. And I've never driven a vintage car before, and it's very different. And we took it out in the country, and then coming back in it was like 5 p.m. in Barker in traffic, and brakes in 20s cars really don't work. And it was a very stressful drive coming through traffic and people pulling out, and you're on the brakes and they don't do much. And Tom's just chill in the passenger seat going, "No, you got this, you'll be fine." And I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, we're on the side trying to steer. Yeah, it's pretty funny actually. Actually, it's amazing how much Mount Barker's grown. I went, my mother-in-law and father-in-law live in Strathalbyn, where we used to live. And even from when we were there 3 and a bit years ago to now, like the amazing amount of growth there is crazy. Yeah. Like we went down there, it was like, I don't know, 10 o'clock in the morning. It was like peak hour down there. It was crazy.
I feel like, isn't Mount Barker the fastest growing area in Australia?
I think so. Something ridiculous like that. It's definitely in South Australia. I don't know about Australia because there's some pretty crazy stuff happening in New South Wales, but
I feel like it's up there. Anyway.
It's up there. It's a very fast growing region. Like that little section between Adelaide and Wistow, like there's just houses galore there, like just unbelievable. It definitely isn't the country that it used to be.
Nah.
I mean, they're getting actually on the runs, putting up a big place up there too. So it's kind of become a bit of a hub now.
I remember when you used to live at Strathalbyn, now the other side of Mount Barker, and leaving Mount Barker where there's all houses now, but they had those 3 roundabouts where they'd put, and basically you could apex each of them. And I don't know who built this road, but they basically built this sort of 6 S-bend, just left, right, and you could sit at about, I don't know what speed you could sit at, but I'm not going to say what speed you could sit at, but you could sit at a considerable speed.
You could do double the posted, no problem.
And just bang, 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 bang. It was great. It's like a slalom. It's awesome. Yeah. Anyway.
But that's pretty busy now.
But that's all houses now. So
yeah, it's all houses and it's pretty busy. So like one of those with the road up near Wistow now, there's quite a busy bakery up at Wistow, and then that road leads back to the back of a whole heap of other developments. So it's gone pretty crazy. Anyway, and big shout out to Blackbird too, because Ben, who's one of the directors of the business, came up with a pretty cool ad. I thought it was pretty cool anyway. It did like an Eton Centre thing, which is pretty sick.
That's very cool.
Yeah,
that's very cool.
So
as soon as I saw that ad, I went, "Yep."
Yeah, I was chatting with Pete, who's the marketing manager of Blackbird, and we were just throwing around ideas. And we're why don't we do like? He's like, why don't we do like a motorsport quote? I'm like, why don't we do a Senna quote? Like Senna's got some pretty cool quotes.
Yeah.
And then Ben came up with the whole concept of everything. So
and then Senna has the sort of the color scheme to go with it, the Brazilian, the yellow, black, and green kind of color scheme. So yeah, very
came
cool.
Out really well. Came up. Really
I'm actually, one of the I'm pleased because one of the I guess the lines we tread with SCS is obviously we have a need for income to kind of pay for it, but also we don't want to sell out and just put these sort of crusty, crappy ads in. And we were very lucky this issue that all of the ads that came in actually are very aesthetically pleasing ads, which is what we want to strive to do, and we want to work with people. So.
I mean, and part of it too that I kind of enjoyed. It's a bit more work, but it was good. Is I guess being a part of the design of a couple of them as well, which is really handy. And even I think it was Ben and I were working on the ad for the Blackbird one at like 11:30, I think, on Sunday night when we had to have the final copy to the printers first thing Monday morning. So
last minute motorsports. Motorsports.
So big thank you to all the guys who advertised with us and got everything back to us so quickly, because it was even a struggle for us. I mean, we were even just trying to get the stories finalized was a bit of a push and a bit of hard work, very last minute type stuff, but it worked out really well. Shot Mike Lowe's Volvo on Saturday. If people are looking at the Instagram feed, that was pretty cool. That's going to be an interesting little car.
Yeah, it's 240. You know, obviously we don't want to give too much away. The stories in the mag, but 240. No, sorry, I learned a lot about Volvos. 242. Yeah. No, see, it turns out the 240s were the.
So
Group
Gordon
A
will get
cars.
upset with you.
The 240s were the Group A race cars, and the 242 was the two-door coupe road car, because the 2 is for 2 doors and the 240 is the sedan.
Is it?
But it must have been a naming structure they adopted. But the race cars are 240s. Yeah, I don't know. I'm confused.
But I was looking around and there was like 242s with like round headlights too. So I don't know. Are they the earlier ones or these are the later ones?
I think that could almost be the American spec. Yeah, I don't know.
No, there's Australia. There's like ones for sale in Australia, right-hand drive ones.
But Mike said his car was a 1979 build. It was a 79 chassis. Yeah. Don't know.
I don't know. I'm not a Volvo nut.
Anyway.
If you're listening to this, don't be angry at us. But yeah, it's cool. Dude, the turbo is so big for that thing. Did you think that when you were looking through the pictures?
Yeah.
So
the
big.
thing, so you see, obviously, because Luke wrote the story and took the photos, so I kind of didn't see it, and I was sort of proofing it. When you look at the photos, the engine is a long way back up under the firewall, whereas the turbo is a long way forward. And I remember Mike saying he had to clear the steering column.
Yeah,
and the turbo is mounted high.
No, not just that, steering column and brake booster on that side too. That's the other thing. So like basically, because like a few Euro cars that like Italian stuff that I've got, they keep the brake booster and master cylinder on the left hand side and basically have like a rod going through, like a lever rod attachment to go through the other side. So they don't really need to change much in the engine bay. But yeah, like I mean, even my 124, that's got the master cylinder and the booster in the same spot, which of course for the right hand drive cars sits over the exhaust.
Of course.
Which is perfect. Same as like, a lot of the 105 Alphas and Alfetta GT Vs and, all that line of cars. They had those as well. I mean, but yeah, and I guess the same thing with this Volvo, brake master booster and turbo in the way. Because, he was saying interestingly that the turbo sits like tucked away in like the Group A cars and all the Group A cars. And he said this to me. I went and had a Google afterwards. They're left-hand drive.
Yeah.
So they didn't have that problem.
They don't have the problem. Yeah. Because his turbo, it's almost like it's behind the headlight. Like it's a long way forward. It's not just high, it's forward, which I found really interesting.
Well, and that's got implications for like intercoolers and radiators and stuff like that. But,
just really weird because it looks like there's a lot of space there. Like it looked like it's quite a small engine and quite a big engine base that looked like there was a lot of space just from what I saw.
But, the really interesting thing that I didn't really take photos of because it was boring but interesting to me is in the story Mike talks about the age of the engine and things like that, but like seeing the original paint on the block and everything like hadn't been touched and it's like a little bit rusty, cracky, and
how
just
much
like original as anything.
300,000 kilometers,
310 like I think, or something like barely run in for a Volvo.
Amazing.
Unbelievable. Amazing. Stick a turbo on it and go your hardest. Yeah, so
boost and see what happens.
Yeah, that was cool. And again, that was thanks to Mike for allowing us to do that so last minute too. That was like oh crap, when are we going to do this? Oh, Saturday morning, and then madly edit, get the story up, and have it all done by Sunday, along with everything else in the mag too, which is cool. But yeah, pretty proud of this one. Again, we're pretty happy with it. And I guess the timeline I saw as well helped us get some of the Goodwood stuff in, which was nice.
That was good. I actually edited. We did the final proof, not that anyone, but just for a bit of background, the final proof of this magazine was done at Silverstone Circuit, sitting in the wing, watching it was a bit of a, that's obviously with compressed timelines, it kind of caught us on the hop, and I was up at Silverstone. Our friend Julian Carr had organised, luckily got us to sort of cover it. And and sort of was sort of messaging.
What event was that
Luke,
one up there?
It was really interesting. So
hang on, finish off the other line.
So we're there in the pits and I'm shooting, and then we needed to be at print first thing Monday morning, Adelaide time or Australia time, which is kind of Sunday early mid-afternoon our time. So we kind of had to do the final sign-off so Luke could make any changes to the design before it went to print on Monday morning, so he could at least get some sleep. And yeah, so when the final artwork came through, got the laptop up into the obviously media center and everything's closed due to COVID, but they've got this it's the floor space is ridiculous. I mean, it is, you stand there, and it is the prime place in a Formula One race. It's the bit where, I don't know, Bernie Ecclestone and all of the, like the top tier is watching the Grand Prix from. It's right behind the podium. Like it's that complex. But yeah, there's this little cafe in it and so much space, and they've got these tables. So I set up on a table, had a window looking down on pit lane in the main straight, and watching, Cobras and E-types and Astons DBs, racing this 3 hour while I was sort of proofing Sports Car Safari there. It was pretty cool.
Should have done that in the in like the footnotes of the contents. Should have done that. Proofed in Silverstone, UK.
If you find any errors in this magazine, it was proofed in the presence of an AC Cobra, and I might have been distracted. So.
Might have been looking the other way. That's really anyway. So, what was the event that was there? Because that. What? With everything that was going on, I didn't even ask what it was. I was just like, "You're like, I'm gonna go see this." I'm like, "Yeah, whatever. Okay, next thing."
Yeah, it was actually really cool. So Motor Racing Legends, our friend Gillian works for Motor Racing Legends. She's one of the staff there. They're an organizer of historic racing in the UK, and they run the grid. So they run the classes. It's like, I'm trying to think. It's like, V8 Supercars, where V8 Supercars will run the category, and then event holders, promoters will hold events that they will attend. And okay, we'll get onto that.
Don't talk to me about that.
Actually, that's a good thing to talk about. We'll get onto that. We'll get onto that. Yeah.
That was in that was in my head to talk.
Yeah, in the back. So Motor Racing Legends, their events normally coincide with big festivals. Donington Historic Festival, Silverstone Classic. But obviously because of COVID, none of these things took place, and they only had one event this year. And then 6 weeks ago, they had the idea, with everything sort of, there was a bit of a window opening. So they did a closed doors. They managed to get a booking at Silverstone on a Sunday, which at such short notice is nigh on impossible. So how they managed to swing that, I don't know. And and they basically threw together this single day race meet, and the crowning event was the 3 hour, the RA Royal Automobile Club TT celebration, 3 hours for pre-1966 GT cars. 3 hour endurance race, couple of driver changes, the whole works. And it was pretty cool. It's kind of like what race the sort of a lot of the cars that race at Goodwood, like those sort of style of, Cobras and E-types. I'm in love with the seriously prepared E-types. Like they look like these sort of Series 1 E-type roadsters, and they've got the soft top, but then you stick your head in there and they've got a beautiful cage inside the soft top, and there's a carbon tillet race seat, and they are prepared just to the limit. Like they are just within, gorgeous cars, absolutely gorgeous.
I was obviously for reasons, very, very excited about that sprint that was there. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, Alfa Romeo Sud Sprint. That car actually raced. It has period race history. It raced in a European Championship in the 80s. But once again, I mean, the level of preparation in these cars the standard is so high. Just the attention to detail, and I mean, front wheel drive Sud Sprint, and this thing had 10-inch wide 10s on the fronts.
Can you imagine how heavy the steering would be in that?
But
3 hours. It'd be pretty hard.
No, but with your front wheel drive and your limited slip diff, just jump on the throttle and let the thing pull itself through the corners. And
I can't imagine that would be 10-inch wide for lateral G, not for acceleration.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Pretty cool though.
Definitely.
Actually, before we get too much further down the rabbit hole, we can keep talking about the magazine. The magazine is
run through our Adelaide 500 rants.
There she is.
Look at that.
She is
Sports Car Safari for the audio only. We have the front cover on the screen at the moment.
Which is pretty cool. So that's up for order on the website now. We just got the shop item up a couple of seconds before the podcast, actually. But I'll probably hold off shipping that until next week. So you can throw it in now, put in the purchase, and then I'll do it as a bulk thing next week. Yeah, just with everything that's going on, I can't sit up.
Your time is valuable.
Looking for shipping intern. Gets paid in simulator time. So that'd be pretty cool. Anyway, so I guess part of the other thing that was really cool from my side of the thing, once we actually got the thing to print, I guess the other bit as well was just the Open Book Howden guys in working with the deadline as well was pretty amazing. Pretty cool to see. We contacted them with not much time and said, "Hey, can you guys do this?" Yeah, sure, no worries. And then after that, then it was like deadline change. It's like, "Hey, can you do it in less than a week?"
The funny thing I find is, like a lot of people talk about car mechanics in this way, and I think what we're learning is the same with printing shops, is that it does take a while to find the right people. Like, you cycle through a couple of companies. This is our third different print company we've tried, and others have been good and bad for various reasons. And I think Open Book at Howden, I think we're quite happy with them. But like it does take a lot of time to kind of find the right people that can do the job and can work with you. And
so really accommodating, and just were like, yeah, no worries, we'll get that sorted. And the speed of it was pretty crazy. So we got the proof to them on Monday morning. Monday afternoon, we got back the RIP proof, which is like basically what the printer sees when they go to do it. Approved that, and then it was on the press on Tuesday night, which was pretty cool. Got to meet Stu.
Yeah,
dude.
Yeah, the printer.
So good. So I guess, so another thing that I said was like a bit last minute to them was like, hey, can I come and look at the print and take some pictures and some video and stuff like that. Plus it's also a bit of a good excuse for me to get in there and have a look, because as you know, learn. This whole design and colors and photos and print and the way everything behaves in its own way, like from when you take a photo to when you edit a photo to how you edit a photo on one screen as opposed to a different screen, and then how that goes to the printer. And then even the interesting thing, so what Stu's got there when he's working, a couple of shots you can see it, is he's got one sheet that's I can actually probably bring it up. He's got one sheet that's like a digital proof, so they print it on quite a large sheet of paper. And they got 8 pages. They got 4 spreads, 8 pages on each bit of paper. And he's got a digital proof that's like the color correct on paper, digitally printed. This is what you're working to. And he's got another one that's really interesting that like it was like this thick. It was basically a digital proof but folded in random ways, and then like elastic banded together. And when you open it, it's like pops out like a pop-out book. As like what bit of the print goes where, because obviously when you're printing sheets, what they match up to makes no sense. There's like one page here, one page there, and then you got to flip. And then the other thing he has to do is got to print on one side, then flip it and print on the other side and line them up and everything. So
it's a lot of manual skill.
It's an art. It is an art.
People think that it's just Control P and let it do its thing, but it is.
And I guess that's part of the thing why I really enjoy that part of the process too, is the the skill that's involved in that. So it was pretty funny rocking up there, and the girls met me at the front, Georgia and Margarita, which were very lovely, and took me in. And then I'm like, this dude, and he's all quiet working on it. I'm like, hey, I'm Luke, how you going? And he's like, oh yeah, I'm Stu. And I said, you're doing the magazine tonight? I'm just here taking pictures and trying not to get in your way and stuff. He's like, he picks up like the proof copy and he goes, oh yeah, this looks pretty good, but not enough Subarus in it. And I was like, oh no, you're not a Subaru guy, are you? And he's like, yeah, I'm a Subaru guy. And then obviously so this was Tuesday night, so this was night shift, and so there's like no cars there. There's like 3 or 4 cars there, and one of them is a really dark grey 2018 STI sedan with a wing and like green, bright green brakes, and like pretty and very clean looking car. And I was like, that can't be your STR. The friend's like, yeah, that's mine. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then I was like, and I go, and you say you've been a Subaru guy for, yeah, I got a GC8 as well. I'm like, oh, great, perfect. Like this is good.
We can get on.
Yeah, we can get on. So he was doing his thing and working, and like, so like when he's doing the proof, he's got the proof and he's printing, and as he's going along, the whole way through the print, you pull off a sheet, you put it on the stand that you see in the pictures, and then compare it to the digital proof. And so, but the way the digital proof is compared to like our final product is very different too. So part of the thing, and this is what Stu was explaining to me, I guess it's a bit of the nerdy side. I'm sorry to get a bit nerdy for you out there about printing stuff, but it is cool. And it helps you understand what's going on. So with offset printing, the ink actually flows into the paper more than a digital print. So like a digital print with toner, generally the toner and the ink sits on top of the paper, but with offset, because it's more like a painty type of ink, it actually seeps into the paper and the paper absorbs it. And so that has a different effect as well. So when you've got, a kind of, matty, I guess, finished paper with ink going into it, it's going to produce a different color again. Managing those colors. So the things that Stu has to, the printer of the offset press has to manage is a piece of paper that travels quite a long way, because
they're big machines.
They're big machines, so it's got to go through. It depends on the type of offset printer it is, but it could be a 4-color one, it could be an 8-color one, and so they can go for 10 meters to 20 meters, even. Like they're quite big. And so that paper has to go through each roller and each bit the whole way through, right? It has to go the whole way through and then come out the end. And so that has to be aligned the entire way. So the colors have to line up perfectly.
Because for those that don't realize, I didn't realize this as well. They don't. So when your home printer kind of prints once and it prints all of the colors and that's it. They print each color separately. So you'll print a color, run it through a different color, print the other color on top of that, and then at the end of it, obviously, you get your 4, 8 colors.
That's done in one run. Just to explain it, that's done in one run. So they're not doing like there's like, if you imagine you have your bubble jet, your inkjet printer at home, but you have that times 4 in line in a row, and the piece of paper just goes from one to the other, and each one's got an individual color in there. That's how they do it.
It's just funny how they actually literally just spoon yellow ink into and blue ink into the other one, and then it prints them on top of like 4 colors. It's pretty rad. Like it's
pretty cool. So what Stu was doing the entire time, and we're kind of chatting about how he was going, is that he's managing the alignment of the colors in the paper, and then the other bit that he's doing as well is actually managing the amount of ink on the paper. So that was the bit that amazes me. He's got this big panel keyboard thing that looks like massively long thing, and that's all the levels of ink on all the on all the presses, and it's basically managing that. So to achieve a color and a picture, you can put color in or you can take color out. So you can put more ink into the thing to get the color you want, but you might over ink the paper and cause it to bleed and be yuck. So it's also managing not just the color, it's also managing the level of ink that goes into the paper. So you're constantly doing that, and it takes like, I don't know, 40 or 50 even more pages to even get it. Like once you put the new plates in and you get the press going, like you watch the paper come out, it's like chung 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 chung, and you see the color slowly getting better and better and better, until it's at a point where the ink's flown through and it's onto the plates and everything. Yeah, it's just unbelievable. So that was really cool. Like Stu was so hospitable and just lovely, and we just chatted.
And we're talking, just for those these printing machines, we're talking a machine that's like the size of a bus, basically.
Not that. Yeah, kind of pretty big.
Yeah,
but
like a large full drive.
Go back on the Instagram or the Facebook and have a look and see some of it.
Yeah,
but he was just so lovely, just to chat to and go through, and like he goes, "Oh, this is the most exciting thing I've worked on in a little while, just because it's mostly diaries and forms and bits and pieces." So that's pretty cool. Actually, OpenBook do some pretty cool stuff too. They do like a whole heap of beer labels for all the microbreweries and stuff like that. They do all like all the Maggie beer labels and a lot of school annuals and bits and pieces like books, and they've been around for a while, and they do some
South Australian brands. So speaking of iconic South,
they do the calendar too for Shit Adelaide.
So they would know in theory who is behind Shit Adelaide.
Probably. I presume there's some form of NDA for that.
Can we get Blackbird to hack into their databases and figure out who it is?
Probably not.
That's part of our
breach of trust, isn't it?
It's part of our sponsorship arrangement, isn't it? We get three hackings. We don't take money from them, but we get 3 hackings. So. No, we're joking. Blackbird don't hack. They stop people from hacking you.
Correct. Yes.
So anyway, while we're talking about iconic South Australian things, the news I woke up to, everyone sort of knocked off work to back home. I woke up to the news that the Adelaide 500 is no more. Clipsal 500, Superloop 500, whatever you want to call it, the Adelaide Street Circuit. Which, if you think about it, this has a heritage which started in 1985 for the Australian Grand Prix. 10 years of the most famous Grand Prix in the world. We had then Asian Le Mans came for the 24 hours, the race for 1,000 years, which I think a lot of people forget actually happened, which was pretty cool. The crocodile liveried Audi R8, racing around. Best race car design ever. One off for that race. Yeah. With the trouts as the air intakes on the pods jumping out of the water. It's so cool. So we had that, and then obviously that morphed into the Adelaide 500 in 1999 for what was back then V8 supercars,
which was pretty cool. I mean, like to adapt from losing the Grand Prix to the COVID state to getting replacing it with another event and doing that just as well and building that event up was pretty phenomenal from the guys that organise it all and the running of it. Because like I remember when the Grand Prix left, being quite sad because we actually went to the dad and I went to the Grand Prix auctions afterwards, and we bought a couple of TVs that we used in the Grand Prix, and
really, Can you imagine going to that auction today? What you'd find in there?
What do you mean? Oh, like if you could go back to that auction?
Just cool stuff.
Oh yeah, it'd be awesome.
Nothing we need. But anyway,
so and then to have that replaced by another event was pretty cool. But it's a bit sad to see it go.
I remember the heyday. Look, we can get into why. I think the event rode the wave of growth and popularity. It was, that sort of early 2000s was a very high watermark of Australian motorsport. And, you had
just Australian cars too, like
Australian cars.
Like VTVX, Commodores,
AU, BA Falcons. I remember we used to work as my dad worked, and I did for a few years as pit lane officials. So we're in pit lane, and like genuinely one of my favorite motorsport experiences is standing in pit lane at Clipsal 500 on the Sunday of race day as the race started, and you'd be there in pit lane, and they'd 30 cars all bouncing off the rev limiter, and I just love it. They'd hold them there on the limiter for like 20 seconds or whatever it was before they started. And the place was just shaking. And then the crowd was cheering, like, all these people, 100, and then the flag would drop and they'd take, it was a time and place. But I think mismanagement, I think the world has changed as well. I think it's a bit of column A, a bit of column B. Yeah. It is sad. I think let's be real, everyone's kind of known the writing's been on the wall for a few years, I think.
Well, I'm surprised it didn't happen earlier, just like even with losing the Clipsal sponsorship and the amount of people that they used to bring to the event too, like the first year of no Clipsal, that whole hairpin end was just empty, whereas that was the Clipsal corporate area basically, where tens of thousands of tradies would come and beer up and
free beer for a whole day.
Beer up and Bundy up, and off they go.
Do you remember back in the
Yeah.
day, you could judge if you got corporate tickets to Clipsal, but you could judge how senior you were based on what day. So if you got the Thursday corporate tickets, you were pretty low rank. But if you managed to
that's
dwindle
still up there, but
still up there, but
not like owner of the business.
Not like Sunday. You get Sunday corporate tickets, you know you're someone special, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that really like hit home for me the fragile nature of that event when that happened. And then even like just I don't know, it was sad seeing like on race day that half the stands empty and things like that. And even then when they were getting like a lot of the big bands and selling a lot of tickets for people going to the gigs and stuff, that was great. But it was just sad to see like the actual stands empty and stuff. Yeah, no, a lot of those people who bought that were going to go see whoever, Hilltop Woods play or whatever.
Yeah.
But they weren't there to see the motorsport. I also got a bit frustrated. Like, I don't know about you. You got a bit frustrated by the support events too.
I think there's a couple of things for that event. I think obviously the natural decline of car manufacturing, the whole Holden versus Ford thing just isn't what it is. And that was just a time and no one could do anything about that. Look, we can probably, to be fair, maybe we should do some research and try and get someone on the podcast that actually knows a lot more about this, because there are other people in Adelaide that know exactly what happened. But my broad understanding of it is a few years ago, they disbanded the South Australian Motorsport Board, who were a board of very experienced motorsport people responsible for events like Classic Adelaide and the Grand Prix. And, these are people that have dealt with Bernie Eccleston and then, are very experienced at the top level of international motorsport, were kind of planning this event, and they gave it to the South Australian, the Tourism Commission, which nothing against the Tourism Commission. Like, they've done some great work and they're brilliant people, but they just didn't have that depth of kind of the car guy thing to know what makes a good motorsport event. And I think it did lose some of the specialness after that move happened, and then slippery slope.
I mean, like, one of the highlights of the last few years of that event was the running of the improved production guys. I mean, that was like
the best.
That was great. That was fantastic.
But then last year,
how many views the YouTube videos got and all that kind of stuff,
made it to Jalopnik and everything,
everywhere.
But then last year some really bizarre things, like last year when improved production didn't make the category yet, the Asian R8 LMS Championship did.
They were obviously paying the money to enter, weren't they?
Yeah, exactly. It's it's an interesting thing. I'm like a lot of motorsport people. I'm obviously very sad and devastated to see it go. Also, I kind of can see that. Let's be real, the state government in South Australia is broke.
Yeah,
and it is an event that doesn't fit like it with the modern world, and they're a government that's trying to push the state as a technology hub and a hub for, aerospace technology and defense technology and, all of this cutting edge, green energy, wind, solar, like all of, this, and having a big old kind of V8 race.
And festivals. Like the
fact that
it clashed with Fringe probably didn't help its case.
Fringe. It just doesn't swear.
Bit of it too was like,
it was awesome. I loved that. I used to go to both.
You go like during the day to the races, and then you get out of there at night. You go across to the garden, have a meal, see a show. Off you went.
So there was this beautiful moment in the garden. I used to love it. I used to absolutely love it. I did a couple of summers working in the Garden of Unearthly Delights, which is part of the Fringe, and there was this beautiful moment when you'd have the creative of the creatives, the arty of the arties, and I was kind of working with them, and then you'd see the bit where the racing would kind of finish, and then you'd get the race shirts would gradually descend into the garden, have a beer, and then descend back out of the garden. And it was so funny to
watch it come in. Oh, what's this bloody stuff then? Hey,
just go to the stag.
Get a beer, off we go.
But just going back to my point, like I can see that, an event like Formula E, as much as no, we're stereotyping here. That's not everyone. But it was a lot of people though. It was a lot of people. But yeah, like I do get that, as much as I personally think Formula E racing is pretty boring. But I do see that an event like Formula E would have had so much more relevance to promote the state on a global platform, to get international visitors, to promote the high-tech kind of future of motorsport, which, let's be real, as much as I do love supercars. It is the past of motorsport. It's not the future of motorsport. As much as it pains me to say that, it just is the way it is. And so, look, I do understand why they've made the decision. I perfectly understand it, but it's still very sad to.
Yeah. Actually, interesting.
You go. I was just going to say, when what's his face came out on Facebook, the Premier came out on Facebook saying we're still committed to motorsport in South Australia, and I'm going, hang on a minute, you've defunded Adelaide Motorsport Festival, you've literally on the day that you've cancelled the biggest car race in Australia, to then also come out and say that we're still committed to supporting motorsport in South Australia. I'm a bit like, that's probably a bit poor taste. But
we're committed to motorsport in South Australia when it suits us, and when it's far enough away from town, we don't have to worry about it.
I was going to say we're committed to sending motorsport out to Tail and Bend. Yeah,
we'll happily provide public transport up to the Bend for you to go and watch the race
once every hour, and it'll cost you $30.
But they will be there because we're doing it. We're doing our thing.
Yeah,
they need like a high-speed rail link there or something. That'd work. Like
that would be
bullet to the Bend. Oh, bullet to the Bend.
Bullet to the Bend.
Speaking of Clipsal, I call it Clipsal still.
It's still Clipsal.
Still Clipsal. It'll forever be Clipsal. Some absolute legend. I don't know who it is, but they are legend. Plastered Anzac Highway and Marion Road with VE Como, Clipsal livery, V8 supercar stickers the whole way down. Like,
amazing.
Over street signs, over like Anzac Highway street signs, on side street signs, on this, like going down Anzac Highway on the way home. It was phenomenal. It was so good. I was like, what's that? Oh, it's a Clipsal sticker. Yes, someone got really angry, like, and just went to town.
You know what that reminds me of in The Simpsons?
Some dude drunk a whole slab of Bundy and went, "Stuff you, state government! I'm going down Anzac Highway, and I've been saving these stickers. I've been saving these stickers for 10 years because this day to come." And he's just gone, whoop. And gone nuts.
You know, in The Simpsons, when they closed the Duff Brewery and Barney's, making the sole vigil at the front of the closed brewery, that reminds me of that. Like, that's
it's pretty cool though.
Good on you, sir.
I'll probably get taken down, but
good on you,
and
sir.
There's this. It was like there was like some bus shelter ads and stuff like that, and he'd like put in like Clipsal, like a Clipsal sticker over the eyes and stuff like that.
Good on you, sir. Good on you.
Yeah. He's
fantastic.
Because I mean, it was interesting seeing Ben Fitzsimmons like reposted something from Nick Percat and Todd Hazel and stuff about like, really upset because that was one of the defining events that got them really interested into being a V8 supercars driver. Like, it's one of those things that a lot of those passions for those people don't come from, seeking it out. It's like, oh, well, what do you do? What are you doing this weekend? Oh, everyone's going to the V8s. We'll go to the V8s. And you build that passion from there, similar to probably why a lot of, people were why so many Adelaide people love F1. Because when you're a kid, you just got taken there. Not because you were a car nut particularly, but it was an event that was on, and there wasn't Facebook, there wasn't YouTube. You just kind of went and off you go.
And it was the one where it was the event where even if it was the one car race you'd go to every year. Like if you weren't super into it and you weren't going out to Malala every third weekend and you weren't really into it, but like if you just had, like if you or your dad or your mum or your family had even just a passing interest in motorsport, you'd go to that for one day of the year, and that was all you saw for the year. But like that was the
Plus, I think the other side of it too is like having it, like nothing beats having motorsport in the CBD, like just being able to get there, find a park, do public transport, whatever. Just everything comes back to there anyway. Brilliant.
Yeah. I think for me it was Nations Cup. That was the big one for me. It was watching, the early days of Nations Cup, and and they'd have the Friday night, the race into darkness, and you'd have the 360 challenges and the 996 GT3s, of which we now know some people that have actually acquired some of those cars that raced there at that time, but yeah, like, and this was a time, do you remember like the cars we got to see back, we're sounding like a bunch of old farts talking about stuff, but pre YouTube stuff. It's like, when Alan dearly departed, Alan Simonson drove the Coopers put some money behind him and got the 550 GTC out. And I mean, that's something that you'd never see this side of Lamar. And I mean, that was on the streets. I remember the noise of that as like a 12-year-old, 13-year-old kid hearing this V12 Pro Drive built 550 screaming down the back straight, going like, what the hell is that? This is, and that's, to be fair, that's probably where a lot of my love of, early to mid 2000s GT cars come from is, I mean, Brenton Grigol with his 360 Challenge that's still, street registered and that car raced in period with Prancing Horse Racing. I used to go and stand at their pits and watch them, and you had all the Lamborghinis, the Diablos, Durex sponsored Diablo with Paul Stokell in it, big Vipers. Oh man, like that was an era. That was an era.
But yeah, so I guess the real motorsport nutters will continue to trek out places to go and see it. I just don't think there will be as much, I guess, general community involvement in the event, because it would be a lot harder. Like, who's going to drive, who doesn't really have an interest in it all the way out to the bend. I mean, even
have an interest in it, you kind of can't.
Like when I go, I'm gonna drive out an hour and a half to the bend or 2 hours to the bend. I don't know. Like
the problem I think the bend has, and I'm willing to be corrected on this because I haven't, I kind of moved away about the time it opened, but I've been there a few times. It just doesn't have much atmosphere.
It's hard.
Like it's hard to build a circuit, whereas the street circuit in the heart of the parklands in the CBD, like right there, the atmosphere was just
but I feel like if you had the numbers that you had it. Like if, let's say you had 200,000 people, right? If you had that at the bend, you get the atmosphere.
Yeah, true.
Like if you had 200,000 people, you have. I mean, part of that as well is having the other things going on, right? That are not race circuit stuff that build that atmosphere as well. That the Clipsal 500 did really well. There was always lots of off-track stuff there, always lots of things happening, and that builds that atmosphere. And I guess, without having, because there's so many dedicated facilities at the bend, you don't get a lot of that variety. Like it's stuff that you've probably seen the last time you went there.
I remember at Clipsal, it was probably the only time I've ever been to a motor race event, a car event with my sister. And it was because they'd come for the concerts on the night, but they'd come a bit early. And we'd meet up in the afternoon and go and watch some racing and then go to the concert. Like it was a family thing that, really did get a lot of people involved. So it is a shame, but I think also
I'm sure
it's a time gone.
Residents will be happy that there won't be workers destroying their parklands for half the year.
You know what my dad said when we were talking about it, and he's like, I bet you the Parklands Preservation Society are going to claim this, that they've won. And I was like, they had nothing to do with this, but they're going to claim it as a victory anyway.
I remember seeing them walking around the signs and complaining and things like that.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah.
Good times.
Good times.
Actually, one last, if we're going to talk Adelaide street circuit memories, was just the reaction on people's faces. And I was a kid at this point, and I was still young enough. I was somehow just old enough to realize the hilariousness of this. Obviously, you can't really talk about Clipsal without talking about the controversial, the grid girls that they're around. No, but the race of 1,000 years, the Lamar, do you remember, Luke? They had grid boys trying to be equal. And you had all these buff race fans turned up and were greeted by grid boys at the gates. And their reactions were so funny. This was 2000. So like the world's changed a lot since the year 2000. So this was a very
come a long way.
Pretty cool thing for them to do. But that was very funny. These deeply uncomfortable men being well put out of their comfort zone. I remember that. Very funny. Very funny.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So,
It's a bit of a hard thing, but I wonder what they're going to do with all the equipment now. Surely Sheehan's are going to buy that, right? Like all the pit lane stuff and all that kind of gear.
That pit lane has to turn up somewhere. The garages have to turn up.
Well, that'd have to go to the bend. Where else is it going to go?
Yeah,
They could use that. I mean, they've got enough land there to like,
Mm.
I guess, put it up as a structure. It's a beautiful building. Like, it's an amazing building, and I'm sure you
It's
could
only,
put it up.
10 years old, isn't it?
It's not that old, that one. And all the grandstands and all that kind of stuff. Seating. Need some seats for the backyard.
You know, you got to think about.
What if
the
DS will buy the seats? DS would have to buy some seats, wouldn't he?
But the economic impact of all of the contractors, you know, there were people working there for 4 months either side of the event to build that circuit. All of the contracting companies, the construction companies that now don't have that work, because there's lots of work going around at the moment. So I think that's a good time to. Anyway.
Well, yeah, and also like all the vendors that relied on it as well. Like a lot of people that went there. Yeah, it was a big thing. And again, like contractors, trucking companies, like the guys that would run the trucks backwards and forwards from the event,
bringing the concrete barriers, the forklift drivers that would
forklift drivers, like car hire companies, golf buggy hire companies, like
seriously, golf buggy hire companies. Like to be fair,
or fooders or whatever, like they were
media companies,
caterers. Yeah, like
food. Yeah,
it's a big thing.
We've just had a comment from our friend Guy. Forget the V8s, bring back AMF.
Yeah, could you imagine if you had like an AMF, like AMF, but done with the full circuit?
Even to be fair, even AMF, but with just a slightly bigger budget to kind of expand the track out a bit, and 100%. I must admit, I did see a thing on the Adelaide Motorsport Festival Facebook page this evening, basically acknowledging like, we've been getting a hell of a lot of phone calls, and like, yes, basically, yes, thank you, yes.
Government, give us millions of dollars so we can do this, please. I'll be all over.
AMF would need a shoestring of what Clipsal used. Like they could give them 5% and have a roaring event.
Where would you put the track though? That's the hard bit.
I heard for AMF they were thinking of turning left up Wakefield and then heading up into the city and then doing some sort of U-turn and then coming back down the other side of Wakefield. So not going to the effort of closing off the whole city, but using
what you could do
around
is
Britannia or something. Dude, could you imagine if you could loop around Britannia roundabout and back up? Oh, anyway.
Everyone gets nervous going around there. Everyone lifts. No. I thought you could do like left up Wakefield, right onto Hutt, and then come back around through the bit that they usually open up, and then loop back onto Wakefield again, back onto East, and then onto Thingo and then back down. That would work.
That would be very cool.
And you don't have to block off a small section of Hutt Street and East Terrace, and off you go again.
Yeah.
You're kind of locking all those residents there. They're gonna be stuffed.
Yeah, but like also I think with the whole massive popularity gain in classic cars, and look at even the Beta Birdwood just from a pure governmental, I don't know, how do they?
What was the name? Sorry, Beta Bird. What was the name that they gave to the car community? What were they calling them on the
citizen collectors?
That's right. I was trying to remember that the other day, and I was so angry at it. Like, I was like, I'm not a citizen collector. I'm a car enthusiast. Just call me a car enthusiast.
It's like a drinking game. Citizen collector, drink. Anyway. But think about all of those people that are really into that now. And I can't look, someone will be able to correct me on, how the government analyze the effectiveness of these events. It's like on basically,
you should have a chat with him.
It's like in social media, they measure it in impressions, like, but it's based on, the sort of the
flow and economic benefit,
benefit, but also like the people get out of it, the joy per people. But there's a lot of people interested in like a wide range of classic and race cars, and if you can kind of bring more of that crowd together through a more diverse range of cars, then and it costs 10% to run, then
yeah. Well, I guess also with the changing of the classic car registration rules in SA again, and we've already got like some amazing classic car community here anyway. It's it'd be an interesting thing.
And there's a lot of people.
But that's not going to happen. But realistically, is it?
No.
I'd like it to. Be great.
I'd like it too.
I'd like to do another AMF journal. That'd be good. That was fun.
Yeah, I'd like to have a drive.
F1 cars.
I want to have a drive at AMF. I've never driven that circuit. A lot of people have, but never got to Never got to
I
do
could
it.
just do it. We'll just take some bolt cutters, undo the gates onto Victoria Park, and go your hardest. That'll work. Middle of the night. Sounds like
Anyway.
to me. Hey, speaking of driving cars,
what have you got? What have you been driving?
I've got Andy's 105 that he shall never get back now.
So what's the story behind this car?
I think
Could it enlighten us?
Yeah, but podcast.
Just in case everyone hasn't.
You've got a friend called Andy in London,
Mm-hmm.
who's from Australia, and has a couple
The
of beautiful old cars here, and mentioned to you that he needed a spot to put his 105. And you said, Luke. And I went, yes.
So basically the deal is,
isn't it?
You house it and maintain it.
Mm-hmm.
You drive it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yep.
And then Andy doesn't get it back because Luke falls in love with it and then skips town, and
it might already be registered in South Australia. Or not.
VIN swaps. ID swaps it to a different car and paints it red, and who knows what happened to it.
Red with tan leather, a la every poor Alfa under the sun. Bring back more baby poo coloured 105 Alphas. So yes, the other day got a call from Seva Logistics saying, Luke, your Alpha is here. So I made my way down to Wingfield, to the holding yard, and there is a beautiful grey 105 1750 with a stunning red interior, with the beautiful wing seats that are worth an obscene amount of money now.
Don't say that.
Those seats are ridiculous. There's one guy trying to sell one driver's seat that is literally crummy old foam with completely destroyed cover on it, like completely destroyed. What's $3,000 for it? It's crazy.
Surely
anyway, they're very popular.
Could just make one.
Anyway. Yeah, but still, like that'd cost a lot of money anyway.
Yeah,
it's also all the framework and the mechanism. The mechanism is so beautiful when you twist it on the back. The headrest comes out of the wings.
Oh, really?
It's pretty stunning, man. Anyway, so went and picked up this car and picked it up at 8 o'clock in the morning from Wingfield. So I had to trundle back through peak hour traffic, which it did flawlessly.
I was worried about you. Half of me was like, is this thing going to start? Because most of these cars have been coughed on and off transporters for a couple of weeks, have got dead batteries and all sorts.
That's the interesting thing. I was a bit worried about that too, but kind of YOLO'd it because it left Melbourne on the 12th and didn't get here till the 27th or something, 26th.
That's a lot of time spent in holding yards and trucks.
In holding yards and trucks, a long time. So that was interesting. But yeah, rolled up. Happy as it was great, and made its way through peak hour traffic. Went to work in it, and went and picked up Samuel from school, which he freaked out when I got there because he kind of knew that the car was coming and we're going to have another car in the garage, but I don't think really understand. He's 8-year-old boy and kind of a little bit oblivious to that stuff. But I came up and I went to open the door, and he was like, "What are you doing, Dad?" And I'm like, this is what we're driving home. Because I thought you were gonna like do something to it. You were just admiring it, and then you were gonna, you were just showing me something. And he's like, "This is awesome! Wow, it's so cool," and everything. So that was awesome. And like today, because there's obviously no rear seat belts in the back. Friday is day off normal work, looking after the boys. So have Noah and have Samuel. And Samuel's like, "Can we take the grey car, the grey Alfa?" No, Noah can't go. I can throw Noah in the back, but I might get in trouble. I took Noah out the block in the back seat, and he loved it. But So that was really cool. So very much thank you to Andy for allowing me the privilege of being the short-term custodian of that vehicle.
I saw that wink.
Wink. But it's really interesting, actually. So Dad's got a 105 2-liter GTV. That was his first, I think he was 21 when he bought it. He was the second owner of that vehicle, and that was a car that he helped start the Alfa Club in SA with. By the time I came along as a kid, baby capsules were so big back then, you couldn't really fit something in the backseat of a car like that. And I think the engine was starting to go and the gearbox was crunchy and it was a little bit rusty. And so he just decided to leave it out the back. So my whole growing up was sitting inside a 105 GTV, like pretending to drive the thing. And to this day, I'd never driven a 105 before. So
Yeah, wow.
it was really cool to like, childhood fantasy little Luke and jump for a drive.
I actually don't think I've driven a 105. I've driven a couple of Spiders, which are kind of the same, like very similar, but obviously without a roof. I don't think I've driven a 105.
Yeah. So
interesting.
105. Yeah. So anyway, that was a really, kind of tingly, warming kind of feeling experience. And the thing runs beautifully. It's great. Little bit here and there where I look at it and go, I want to, clean that a little bit better, do that a little bit better, polish the chrome. I messaged Danny, I'm like, how much cleaning is too much cleaning? At least the paintwork will be buffed and the chrome work will be bright again and stuff like that. I'll make sure that stuff's done. But yeah, such a beautiful, balanced, little stunning car to drive. I went and kind of got myself in trouble because it was about 6:30 and Ruth was starting to get dinner ready and Xander's like, drop me past the magazine, because he knew that I was out and about. I'm like, Xander lives probably about 15 minutes where I am, and the road between my house and his house is a beautiful, gorgeous little windy road. A few cars on it.
Point out, if he lived after a crap drive, you'd have been like, nah, sorry, mate.
Yeah,
help you.
pretty much.
In fact, so he lives after a good drive, you're like, okay.
The car was filthy after being a few weeks in the holding yard. So I said to Ruth, I've got to put the 33 wagon downstairs after going and getting all the magazines in it. And then I got to shift some cars around. So I put the 105 downstairs, washed that, and then I said to Ruth, I'm gonna go drop Xander a magazine. She goes, okay, yeah, don't be too long because dinner's coming. Driveway, and then out, and then I get this message like, oh, that's why you're going. So it was really cool. So yeah, took along to Xander's and went said hi to him, dropped off some mags, which was cool. And we were showing him around the car, and I was like, I think I smell a bit of fuel. So we opened the front, and Xander had a bit of a look through. He's like, yep, there's some fuel. Some O-rings on the Webbers were a bit weepy and not heaps, but enough to be like, so good old, Xander with old classic cars as well, with his Porsche and with his Mercs and stuff, brings out an O-ring kit. So we've got, taking off some bits for the Webbers and replacing some of the O-rings in there so the thing doesn't catch on fire, because Alfa's on fire is not fun.
Anything on fire.
Yeah. It must be something with me and classic cars and fuel, because
it's like the third time.
It's like the third time. Anyway. But anyway, it stopped the leaking, and then drove home, and I had a good little bit of drive on the way back. Get the car, feeling the grip a little bit, feeling the balance. They're just beautifully balanced, and great turn in. Back gets a little bit light. Put the power on, it squats and goes out amazing. The only thing that's a little bit annoying is hill timing is a little bit hard. The accelerator is a little bit too far away.
Because they're floor mounted, aren't they? They're floor mounted.
Floor mounted clutch and accelerator, top mounted. Clutch and brake, floor, accelerator, top. Because interestingly, left-hand drives are not. Left-hand drives are up, but when they do right-hand drives, they just over. They literally just went.
Yeah, interesting. There you go.
But the accelerator is just a little bit far away, so it makes it a little bit difficult to hill time.
You could probably, if you were gonna,
little steering wheel is the best. Love it. Little thin thing is just beautiful. You don't, just it's good.
So nice.
Yes.
Anyway,
that is fun. So that is
we probably should wrap the show up. It's probably quite late where you are.
Yeah,
it's quarter past 12. Where I am.
It's 12:15. So
past midnight.
Guy is obviously not sleeping.
Apologies for the latest show. We are trying to, as I said, post lockdown, fitting this around our lives, but also since in the UK we're probably going to go back into lockdown, I imagine, in the next couple of weeks. So we'll be back onto our regular schedule.
Oh yeah, you guys are doing too great.
It's bad. It's bad. But that's a topic for
another day.
Hey,
did we discuss the weather at the start of this? We're slipping. What's going on?
Actually, funny you say that. I was waiting for you to ask me about the weather because we've put our clocks back, and I went out for a run last night, and it's dark at like 4:15 in the afternoon now.
Oh, are you out of daylight savings now?
Yeah, and winter, and we're only a couple of weeks, 6-8 weeks away from the shortest day of the year, and yeah, went out at about sort of 4 o'clock, 3:45, 4 o'clock for a run, and yeah, like 20 minutes into the run, it starts getting dark, and then I was in this field, and it was muddy, and pitch black, and anyway, that's the weather.
Podcast next week.
Yes,
might be Thursday night, Friday night.
Probably Thursday. I think would be good for Thursday. But remote.
Again.
Yeah, we'll try.
Cool.
So, well, thank you, Luke. Thank you, everybody who's watching. Thank you for tuning in. Issue 4 is now available in the shop, sportscarsafari.com/shop. You'll find it. And